Governor has struck with Speaker Silver and Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos hold 2 days on ethics and then the one a few weeks back on a property tax cap. Then Cuomo will have accomplished 2 of his top 3 agenda items, and the only thing left for him to get done before June 20th is the passage of same-sex marriage. My next guest is one of about half a dozen or so senators who are on the fence when it comes to this issue. He is Hudson Valley Senator Greg Ball. He's a Republican senator. Thanks very much for your time.
Liz, pleasure to be here.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
So there's a report today in the New York Daily News about, and it's not the first time that you've expressed this concern, but that you don't believe that this bill can pass. It's actually not been introduced in your House, but can pass without exemptions and protections for religious institutions. Could you just explain a little bit more about what you mean?
Well, unless I missed something, Liz, it also hasn't been introduced in the Assembly. Am I correct about that?
Well, it's circulating at this point. Assemblymember O'Donnell, in fact, does have that bill out, and he is gathering sponsors. But there's no program bill from the governor on that. You are correct, yes.
Right, and you know what the other point is that I have heard at least rumblings that even in the Assembly chamber that they don't have the votes that are going to be necessary to make that happen. They had 9 new Republicans, I believe, and a lot of new faces over there. So it's going to be interesting to see on the Assembly side. But at the end of the day, and also then the Democrats in the Senate, whether they're going to have those votes tied up. We know that they thought they were going to have some votes the last time that they didn't end up having.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of housekeeping that has to go on this before it can ever come to a vote, because those who are pushing it certainly don't want to see it fail for the 3rd time.
Well, nor does the governor want to see that happen again. I mean, certainly. I mean, look, though, the Republicans and I'm just last week, Assembly Minority Leader Brian Kolb was here telling me much of what you're saying now, questioning whether or not the votes are actually there in the Assembly. It would be the 4th time this bill would come up for passage, if in fact it passed. But in your House, I mean, there are a number of people, as I mentioned, who are speaking. I believe Ken Mehlman was here, the former Republican National Committee chairman. He came out not too long ago, about a year ago now, and he's here lobbying. I mean, the pressure is enormous. So what about these? What would make you comfortable? Would the religious protections make you comfortable enough to vote yes?
You know, I think that we could pass immediately. I don't speak for my conference, but I can tell you, just speaking to members both in the Assembly and the Senate, I think we could immediately pass the most comprehensive civil union legislation that the country has ever seen, and then consider initiative and referendum to put marriage equality out to the people.
But we don't have initiative and referendum here in New York is the problem, right?
Yeah, but I do believe that, look, you pass the comprehensive civil union legislation, then we could pass a initiative and referendum package, which would include gay marriage, and leave it up to the people. I think they could do it as early as 2013. And I'll tell you what, to Governor Cuomo, if he's listening, you know, as I understand, even President Obama and Hillary Clinton don't support gay marriage. So somebody who has his eye towards running for president, that may not be a bad move. But if you're going to pass a marriage equality as it stands, I think you're going to have real religious carve-outs that protect the Catholic Church and other religious
institutions. Well, what does that mean? Stop for a second. What does that mean? Protect them how? I mean, how are they actually in jeopardy? Because my understanding is that if any church doesn't want to perform any same-sex marriages, they do not have to. There's nothing that mandates a requirement that the Catholic Church has to marry people. So what's the problem? Okay,
so in the bill text, you're right, that they wouldn't be forced, but then there's the entire environment of actually being opened up to litigation. And there's a belief that even in the current legislation that there would be protections for religious institutions, but the next step is to also protect not-for-profits, religious organizations, from Knights of Columbus down the gamut, for everything from hall rentals. And then also the third, and one of the toughest issues to deal with, would be carve-outs for individuals and private businesses that have moral or religious objections. Now, that's going to be the toughest territory to tread, but the second tier is to work on religious organizations and affiliated and the not-for-profits. So I've been talking to the governor's office, and I think that for those who really want to get it done this year, this legislative session, they've got to seriously look at those religious protections. Not only that they won't be forced by the government themselves, but that they won't be opening themselves up to litigation should they not want to. Sure.
So then you could vote yes if, in fact, a bill included that. Is that correct?
I can tell you, Liz, and I'm not playing political games, because I know you called me out if I did. I'm absolutely undecided right now.
Okay.
But I will say that if we had real religious protections, and if you protected even private individuals with religious objections, you would pull a lot of the steam out of those who are against marriage equality.
Well, I mean, there are just look, this is a very difficult personal issue for a lot of people. Before we leave it, you know, basically there are people who are never going to be convinced convinced. State Conservative Party Chairman, for example, Mike Long, would say to you, marriage is between a man and a woman. That's the definition. Never going to change, period. End of story. We shouldn't have this debate at all.
Yeah, well,
right?
you know what, Liz, I think that what some people have to look at, and you're looking at right now at a guy in me who took on the Republican Party. I've never had the nomination of my own party.
Right.
Didn't have the nomination of the Conservative Party. I mean, you talk about a conservative bona fide credentials going into the last election, yet the Conservative Party didn't endorse me. I had to run a write-in campaign. I won it 3-1.
Right.
So when it comes to being threatened from one way or the other, I don't necessarily take kindly to that. But I can tell you that Republicans and Conservatives should really think a little bit down the line. If you really do care and you're on the right of this issue, or to the right of this issue, you got to realize that there's going to be a day when marriage equality comes to New York State, and it may be within our best interest to make sure that we have religious protections, that we protect religious individuals and institutions, do everything we can at this point to make sure that happens. But that, this is going to have to be decided by individual members.
And Dean Skelos, the majority leader, has not indicated to you when and if there will be a vote before June 20th when the legislative session ends?
To be honest, and for good reason, we're focused on job creation, the property tax cap, ethics reform. We're pretty far into session now, and we have not passed a real serious, the Senate has passed a real job creation package.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, marriage equality, I'm sure it's a top priority, but I came here to cap property taxes, free school tax for seniors, get New York State back on track, and we really should pass a real jobs package before we do anything else. So that's what we're focusing on in our conference.
I just want to ask you quickly about, you're a real law and order guy. You are the chair of the Homeland Security Committee in the Senate. You actually want the governor to reconsider his temporary suspension of the Secure Communities, the Federal Secure Communities program. Have you spoken to him about this? And you believe it's actually going to make the state less safe, is that correct?
Under this program, the Secure Communities program, we've had 77,000. And for those folks who are pro-illegal immigration or anti-illegal immigration, let's not talk about the politics of polarization. We're talking about criminal illegal aliens. We're talking about, under this program, 77,000 criminal illegal aliens who have been deported that otherwise are costing taxpayer dollars and then can be re-enter the community and hurt Americans and New Yorkers. We're talking about nearly 27,000 of those who are deported under this program were rapists and murderers and child predators. It's absolutely insane that this governor, and this may be, I'm telling you, I know that Wiener's getting a lot of press these days. But
I'm going to ask you about that, Senator. Thanks for bringing it up.
This is almost a Spitzer moment on this program. And I understand that the governor has to appease his base, but I ask him kindly, as the Senate Chair on Homeland Security, to reconsider his position, because we have to give law enforcement all the tools that they need. 19 hijackers, several of them have overstayed their visa and overstayed their welcome, certainly. And we got to make sure that those frontline troops have the ability to figure out where you're from and whether or not you're a threat.
You are actually holding a hearing on that on June 15th, so we'll probably revisit this issue. And just before we run out of time, look, about Anthony Weiner, it's pretty stunning. Actually, almost no words to describe it. I personally was floored. The situation, you've been the target of allegations, you've been deflecting them and answering questions for a long time. What do you think about the situation? Should he resign? He says he will not.
Just to clear it up, Congressman Weiner never sent me a photo, and that's just a joke.
Good to know.
Yeah,
good to know.
That I know of, but I don't check my accounts daily. But no, I mean, in all honesty, the congressman should have come out. He should have told the truth immediately. He should have addressed it as a private matter, which it was, between he and his wife, and he should have gotten on with the business. After trying to cover it up for a week and then more photos surface, it's not the exact way to deal with the scandal. So people are very forgiving. At the end of the day, we live in a very loving country, but they don't want to be lied to, especially by their public officials. And we all make mistakes. We are people. I put my socks on the same way that the rest of Americans. I'm a public official, but I eat breakfast in the morning, I eat dinner at night, and we're people, and we make mistakes. But you don't lie to your constituency. You don't lie to, especially New Yorkers.
So now, does he have to resign? In your opinion, he says he will not.
I don't think that he has to resign. I think that he has put himself in a very foolish position by lying to New Yorkers. I think it's horrific. I wouldn't want to be in the bedroom with he and his wife and having the private conversations that they must be having, because he's really opened up not only himself but his entire family and his wife, and he really could have just dealt with it right away and dealt with it as a private matter, which he really should have done.
Well, I'm sure we have not heard the last of this. I want to thank you very much, Senator Greg Ball, for
Thanks,
coming
Liz.
in. It's good to see you.
Thank you.